Hello? Good. The first one is, why are you so mean?
Why am I so mean? I'm lovely. I'm literally the nicest person I know. I don't know whether that says terrible things about my friends, but I'm literally the sweetest person I know. Well, I'm friends with Ben Shapiro, so that makes sense. As I said earlier, it's important not just to say what you believe and to talk about... I'm going to take this off, sorry. It's not just important to say about what you believe, but in times when it becomes socially and professionally dangerous to talk about facts, to say, for example, that campus rape culture is a preposterous lie. It is clearly nonsense that women on American campuses are being sexually assaulted at rates comparable to the Congo, where rape is used as a weapon of war. That's obviously nonsense. It doesn't stand up to the slightest bit of common sense. Nor does it stand up to scrutiny when you look into where these studies come from. It's crazy advocacy research. When you live in a world where it's dangerous to say, actually, do you know what? No serious economist takes the wage gap seriously. Women aren't paid differently for the same work as men. You need to revisit the dictionary and learn the difference between wages and earnings. When it becomes dangerous and difficult to say those things, because the media consensus and the academic consensus is so completely all in on these fictions, on these progressive memes that simply aren't true, it becomes difficult to speak out, and people feel very worried about losing friends. People feel worried about losing their jobs in some cases. And I think it takes polemicists, it takes people who are prepared to blow open the fire doors to start those discussions in the first place, to even raise the subject at all. If I'm occasionally mean, it's normally because they deserve it, because you are being lied to. It's very difficult to say this without sounding like some sort of Alex Jones conspiracy theorist. But as somebody who's been worked in the press for many years, you are being lied to knowingly every day by journalists in the press and in the newspapers and on television. They know they're doing it. They do it anyway. They do it because the primary purpose of journalism has stopped being telling the truth, explaining the world as it really is, and has begun to become virtue signaling to their peers about what nice people they are. And this sort of narrative over fact type of journalism, this description of the world as it ought to be, or description of these scary worlds that don't exist, because they sort of tell an important story even if the facts aren't right. Well, these things damage the very people they're supposed to help. If you look at all of the rape reporting on campuses, for instance, well, every single one that I've ever heard of has turned out to be fake. UVA, Columbia, all of them. They've turned out to be frauds. Now, why does this happen? Because the journalists don't really care about the facts. They're not interested in evidence-based conclusions, in exposing wrongdoing. What they want to do is advertise to their colleagues that, rape is bad. Yeah, well, we know that. But the fact is that these things have been, the rates of these crimes have been plummeting for 30 years. And if liberal journalists are going to try to tell me that universities run by liberals are hotbeds of racism and sexism, maybe we need a change in the administration. Maybe it would be better if conservatives ran them for a while, because clearly it's not working under liberalism. Now, what can be challenging and confusing about some of this, is that everybody seems to believe this stuff everywhere you look. And there are some very miserable and depressing reasons for that. Intellectual inquiry, the purpose of which is to broaden horizons, not narrow them, seems to have been thrown out at a lot of universities and in a lot of, particularly in liberal arts colleges and particularly in non-science subjects. And journalists who were never told no at college, never told, that's not what the facts say, now, these students have graduated and become journalists. They're in their 30s. They're still bitter and angry about it, but they're describing a world that doesn't exist. We live in quite crazy times. We live in times where it's open season. You can say whatever you want about the straight white male of folklore. You can abuse them, you can call them terrible names, you can do awful things, and you won't get censure for this outright sexism. You will get applause. In those circumstances, I think being mean is the least that I could be doing.
You good? Ready for the next one? I just want to say...
Sorry, I just go.
The question was, are you mean? And I was, you did treat me to Taco Bell today. That's not very mean.
I did. I took you to Taco Bell.
Okay, so next one.